Hi guys, we're cruising along in topic 12. We're on 12.3, which just has bigger, longer, harder problems. So all I'm going to take you through is kind of the first half, and then I'm just going to show it to you. So we saw problems that had x on both sides our last class period, and now we have x on plus both sides plus bigger expressions. And you know how to handle this. You've already done a problems that looks like that in our last chapter. And we need to simplify that into two-step form. We're going to multiply. So that's 3 times x and 3 times 6, which is 18. Okay? And then we're going to combine like terms. And these two are like terms, and don't drop the 18 on the 18's a negative. That's such a common mistake. So this gets us negative 12. Okay. And this side is already fully simplified. We can't do any more because we can't subtract 6 from 5 times an unknown number. So from here on down, it looks like exactly like what we were doing last class session. You have a choice of whether you want to get your x's together, your constants together. The only important concept to keep in mind is that whatever you do to the left, you have to do to the right. And when a term goes to the opposite side, it's going to take on the opposite sign. Side, sign, kind of rhyme. So I personally always like to get rid of the x that is on the right. It's just my personal preference. So that gives me negative 2x minus 12 equals negative 6. From there, I'm going to add 12 to both sides and divide by negative 2. I'll show that to you. But from this point, you should be feeling pretty comfortable with it. I added 12 and I got 6. And then I divide by negative 2, which takes me to negative 3. Okay. Only new step that we're really doing is that you need to distribute and combine like terms so that you have both sides fully simplified before you start to try to solve and isolate your x's. Okay. Number 22, go ahead and try that one on your own. Pause the video and we'll go over it. The one thing I would like to remind you of is that that minus sign needs to be distributed. Think of that minus sign as like a negative 1. Here, I kind of wrote it in. Think of this as being a negative 1 that you need to distribute. And on this one, you're going to have to simplify the left and the right. Pause. Okay. How did you do on simplifying the left and the right? Were you able to get that simplified to 24 minus 3c and 3c plus 12? Okay. And then from there, it's just what we did our last class session. We're going to take, you can, whatever you do to the left, you're going to do to the right. I personally, what I would choose to do is get rid of these 3c's. Opposite of positive 3c's. Oh, actually, I didn't do that. Let me go ahead and redo it how I would do it. I would subtract 3c from both sides. And that would leave me with 24 minus 6c is equal to 12. I would subtract 24, and I'd get negative 6c equals negative 12. And I'd divide by negative 6, and I'd get x equals 2. Okay. And notice when I did this key set over the summer, I did it a different way, but I got the same answer. So you might find that if you're working with a friend on the phone doing homework, that you might do the problem differently, but the important thing is you get the same answer at the end. If you're taking a test, you'd want to plug that number in for all of your C's in your problem and make sure that the left side and the right side simplify to the same. The last thing we're going to be talking about is these problems that have fractions on them. The computer will say, solve this through the distributive property. I don't care how you solve this, just solve it, okay? And get the correct answer. So the first one I'm going to do is just without clearing the fractions. We're going to learn this concept of clearing, but I don't know if it's really worth it, especially since we have fraction calculators. If you don't want to actually do the fraction part, get out your calculator and do the fraction part on the calculator. So this is already simplified, and this side is already simplified, so I'm ready to start isolating my x's. So the first thing I did is subtract 1/5 of x from both sides. So I need to do 1/3 of x minus 1/5 of x, and I can do that on a calculator, okay? That is fine. 1/3 minus 1/5 gives me 2/15. I think I might have done that on a calculator earlier today, actually. So look here, 1/3 minus 1/5 was 2/15. Okay, no big deal. And from there, I'm going to start to isolate my constants. So I'm going to subtract 1/5. And when I have 1 and I subtract 1/5, I'm going to get -1 and 1/5. So from here, I need to get rid of the coefficient. Opposite of multiplying by 2/5 is dividing by 2/5. So I have -1 and 1/5 divided by 2/15. I did that earlier today over here on the side. Okay? And you will see that I did some cross canceling. Okay, this right here is -6/5. This is the reciprocal because when we divide, we do keep change flip. And I got -18/2, which is -9. If you don't want to do the fractions out, use a calculator. Push the buttons on a calculator and do it that way. Okay. The other option is what we did more before we had these calculators that did fractions. When I was a kid, there wasn't a calculator that did fractions. So we were always looking for ways to get rid of fractions. And so what you do is you find the least common denominator and you multiply every term by the least common denominator. And that's going to allow them to simplify to all be whole numbers. As long as you multiply every term by the same amount, it's a legal move because whatever you do to the left, you're doing to the right. You're doing it to everything. So when I do 15 times 1/3 x, I get 15/3 x. 15 times 1/5 x is 15/5. And this would be 15/5 x. And this would just be 15 wholes. Okay. That right now doesn't look very helpful, but it will be as soon as I simplify. This simplifies to 5x. This simplifies to 3. This simplifies to 3. This simplifies to 15. And now it's a much easier problem. Okay. So I find the number that is the least common denominator of a 3, a 5, a 5, and a 1. The least common denominator is the smallest number they all divide into. And so that gives me 2x plus 3 equals -15. I'm going to subtract 3 and divide by 2. Subtract 3. Ooh, this is missed a lot. What does that give me? A lot of kids will tell me 12. Nope, -18. And then divide by 2 gives me -9. Okay. So the trick is finding the least common denominator and multiplying every single term in the equation by it. We can try one more together in class sometime.